Chief Futurist at Futurist.com, researcher, keynote speaker, and author Nikolas Badminton joining us on Canada Now for his weekly visit. And look, Nick, first, before we proceed here with this conversation, let's first clearly define, I'm going to let you do this, clearly define what the metaverse is.
Okay, the metaverse does not exist, Jeff. Okay, so that's my definition of what people are calling, quote unquote, the metaverse. But, you know, that aside, people are starting to sort of throw all of the cool new immersive technology. So everything from like virtual and augmented reality headsets, Web3 technologies like blockchain and cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, virtual worlds, every single gaming platform out there from Fortnite to Second Life, which is like, you know, quote unquote metaverse OG. So it's kind of the metaverse needs to kind of be like thrown away as a sort of a title of the future, what people are calling the future of the internet. And really we should just talk about, the broad range of capabilities of our digital experience and realize that there's lots of flavors to that. But what's happened is this. Last year, Facebook rebranded to be called Meta.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg said, we're a metaverse company. As soon as he did that, he took like this very small, chatted about sort of concept that originally came from a Neil Stephenson novel called Snow Crash, which is kind of a dystopic world that you had to escape into. To be like the new internet, because Facebook want to own the eyes and feelings of your children, right, Jeff?
Well, because I've read, like, for anyone to claim, hey, we're the metaverse, like it's like that's the equivalent of Google saying they're the internet.
Exactly.
Google's not the internet.
No.
Google is on the internet, but it's not the internet. And it's
exactly.
Just, and it feels like so many have adopted the metaverse world as their own.
Yeah.
That metaverse has either lost its meaning or it's just really become confusing.
Well, it's become confusing, but it's also distracting people away from the importance of critical thinking, good technical platform design, good engagement with people. You know, it's suddenly like everyone's going to be in this immersive world and it's going to be amazing. And it's like, wow, okay, everyone needs to get into this. So I chatted to a Big Four consultancy last week, and they planned an entire day around all these new technology, everything from like NFTs and virtual worlds and whatever, and it's good. But I sort of came in with a slightly more sober view, which is like, you know, we've been sold this big dream by someone like Mark Zuckerberg, and everyone else every other big tech company is like, no, that's not the way. In fact, Minecraft just came out today, a company owned by Microsoft, and said they're not going to partake in NFTs and Web3 and that kind of world because it's sort of against the ethos of empowerment of their users, right? Ultimately, you know, Web3 and Metaverse and all that, it's about reintroduction of monetization of participation in any sort of world. Whilst you might pay a particular subscription fee for, I don't know, a service like Netflix, then you're getting something like, and it's transactional, something like Fortnite you don't pay for, but you might pay for skins and whatever, right? Which is fine. But the metaverse is like everything that you touch, your virtual can of Coca-Cola, your you know, when you enter a nightclub, the shoes that you have to wear or whatever. And, you know, Gucci and Dolce & Gabbana, everyone sort of got into this world and like buy these virtual goods and whatever. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have a feeling of regret of having spent so much money on a promise of platforms for engagement. There's some like the Sandbox out there and whatever. They got enormous multi-billion-dollar valuations, and there's like less than 1,000 users a day. Right.
Are you finding, though, that those that believe the metaverse is our digital future, when there's pushback and they're heavily investing on that and there's pushback, they're saying, yeah, but it hasn't been entirely built yet. Like, it's still being built. So wait and see, because this is going to happen.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you talk about that, because so much of what we use today in terms of internet-based capabilities came from, like, no one believed that e-commerce was going to take off like it does, and it's growing to trillions of dollars in market size over the next 2 to 3 years, and accelerated by the pandemic. But 1968, two things happened. It was really important in the tech world. Douglas Engelbart and his team at Stanford, they demoed something called the Mother of All Demos. He demoed something called the mouse, the touchpad, desktop publishing, hyperlinking, video conferencing. It was like the world's first personal computer, right? And at the same time, there was someone else that came up with the first virtual reality headset called the Sword of Damocles. And that's what, 55 plus years ago. And, like, how many people still wear VR headsets, like, in their entirety? But on Engelbart's side, like, how many people have got personal computers? Everyone's got, like, supercomputer powered personal computers in their pockets. It's called mobile devices. It's, so there are some winners and there are some losers. There are some things that act more slowly. Hardware is really difficult to build, and you have to solve a lot of physics problems to get to the point where you get high enough resolution. It doesn't give you headaches after a period of time or whatever. The idea that suddenly we're going to wear headsets and data is going to be mapped, it's this techno-utopian, dystopian sort of future that is very worrying to me. And I posted, there was a keynote by a guy called James Watley that came out at an advertising conference a couple of weeks ago, and he had an article called Metaverse, What Metaverse? And he was very sort of forthright. And he was like, anybody who stands on the stage and tells you the metaverse is the future hasn't got an effing clue. Yeah. And you should not be okay with that. And it was uncensored. And
yes, it was.
And it jolted the entire, it seems like the entire industry were like, no, but I believe in this. And half the people are like, yeah, like, break it, burn it down, right? But this is kind of the cycle of tech. Like electric vehicles in the 80s, killed by the traditional car industry, now sort of supported and held up high as the bastion of celebration of new transportation and artificial intelligence. Oh, that's fearful. Or cameras on our faces with Google Glass, and now everyone's got snap glasses and jumping around saying, "Take my picture." It's kind of weird. Human culture is the mover and the shaker here, right? Do we want this? Do we want virtual land? Do we want virtual goods? Well, if you're someone that's got a ton of cryptocurrency and you can't divest and turn it into real money, and you want to, like, divest into different asset classes and whatever, it's perfect. If you're a normal Joe on the street, it doesn't really matter to you, because you'd rather go and have a really positive real life experience.
Yeah. Well, so, like, you talk about, like, hey, this was pitched way back when, and now we're seeing it come into fruition, and maybe it's because we as a human race want it now, so we want to escalate it. We want it to happen sooner rather than later. But it feels like there were these grand pitches many years ago, many decades ago, and they were, for the most part, fully explained.
Yep.
It took a long time for it to happen, and then it happened. And now it feels like there are these big pitches by these huge companies that seem way too lofty, and they raise more questions than give answers. That's what it feels like now.
Yeah, well, and they do it because they need to raise money, or they need to justify the spend.
Right.
And I see this as good futures work, Jeff. Speculative stuff about how the world could be perfect, but it's not real.
You got to pay it off at some point.
And it's not doable, and it's not working today. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it just feels like we are just bombarded with these grand, lofty goals that you're just wondering, well, how is that going to, like, there's no answers of, this is what's going to happen then, this is the target goal. Like, there's just not enough of, hey, this is what we want to do. We think it's going to take, I'm just making this up, 10 years, and this is what we're going to have in 10 years. That's our goal. We're working on it now. Any questions? And it feels just more like, no, this is something, we don't know about this. Well, we're not sure about that. And it just feels like there's just too much out there that you start to kind of, I don't know, tune it out a bit.
This is the entire economy of venture capital. Like, this is the entire world of like, you know, I've got a great idea. This could have a potential. Is a total addressable market, as they say. Here's all the people. So, hey, there's 300, sorry, there's like 3.54 billion gamers in the world. That's 3.5 billion people that could be in the metaverse, Jeff.
Yeah.
So we're building something that's going to get 1% of that market in the first year. And like, you know, the VC salivate over their like Patagonia sweaters and their Allbirds sneakers. And, you know, the internet has always been corrupted by money. And so where the internet started was a world of subscription platforms or whatever. And then it's like, no, everything's free. And now it's all advertising driven, which has caused a huge amount of misinformation problems, bots and botnets, whatever. And now we're sort of in this, you know, complete virtuous cycle of make money, raise money, make money, raise money. You can make money too. Just be part of this community. Let's encode your children's emotions, you know, 14 hours a day, and then sell that to Colgate, who can sell you more toothpaste.
Yeah, exactly. Chief Futurist at Futurist.com, researcher, keynote speaker, and author, Nikolas Badminton. Nick, it's a pleasure as always, my friend. We'll talk again next week.
And we won't see each other in the metaverse, Jeff.
No, that's not happening. I will not see you there. I will see you here next week. Thanks, pal. Appreciate it.
Cheers.